First, Jim Ellis, class of 1967. We'll honor Jim today for his basketball career at Bridgewater. As a student, Ellis averaged 18.6 points, 11.2 rebounds, and 4.4 assists per game over his 3 seasons. In his senior year, Jim helped lead the Bridgewater team to 18 victories, a record at that time. That same season, the Eagles advanced to the championship game of the Mason-Dixon tournament. As a senior, Ellis was named to the Virginia All-State Small College team. Following graduation, Ellis embarked on a career in education, teaching in high school and acting as a coach for 32 years. He was named the City-County Boys Basketball Coach of the Year in 1975 by the Stanton Daily News Leader. In 1990, he was included in Who's Who among American teachers. For the last 5 years, Ellis has been driving special needs children for the Augusta County school system. Jim represents all that's best in our student athletes and all that we expect of alumni of Bridgewater College, and is a fitting inductee into the Hall of Fame. And so now it's my pleasure to officially induct Jim Ellis, class of 1967, into the Bridgewater College Athletic Hall of Fame.
Thank you. I'd like to use my time, if I could, to thank a lot of the people that are here that have helped me get to this honor. My wife, Bev, is a graduate of Bridgewater. A lot of the members of her family graduated from Bridgewater, including her father, Paul Seipel, who's in the Hall of Fame. Bev was a cheerleader and a sociology major at Bridgewater, and she had hoped that her sociology major would help her understand her husband. It hasn't worked yet, but she's still hanging in there. Our 2 daughters have succeeded brilliantly in helping other people and making the world better for other people. Our oldest daughter, Sarah, graduated from UVA. She did Teach for America, and she's now the Development and Community Strategies Manager for the United Way in Norfolk, Virginia, where she and her husband, Josh, live. Our youngest daughter, Leanne, is a Bridgewater graduate. She especially enjoyed the drama club with Ralph McPhail, and she's been involved in productions ever since, most recently with Clever by Half Productions. Leanne is a 5th grade teacher at Clymore Elementary and an adjunct professor at JMU, and she and her husband Scotty live in Stanton. Our 1967 team had a memorable year. It was quite a feat for Coach Myers and Coach Reedy, who's here today, to guide a team to 18 wins. It was a rugged conference. A lot of the schools that we played against had scholarships, and there were 17 teams in that league, 8 in the north, and a lot of them gave grants, and there were 9 in the south, and some did, some didn't. But a lot of the records that were set that year still stand today by the individuals and the team. And I'd like to recognize some of the players that are here today. It was an unusual roster. There were only 2 juniors and 2 seniors on that roster, and those 4 players started every game. The one freshman that started the most was Rick Wampler, who had played the year before for the legendary TA coach Larry Pinch on the state championship team. 4 of the starters on that 67 team played on state championship teams, and the 5th starter had been the 2nd leading scorer in the state in AAA basketball, so we had plenty of firepower. We had to replace 2 great players from the year before, Paul Hatcher and Joe Browder, and they're both in the Hall of Fame, both high-scoring career averages. But after Rick started most of the games his freshman year, he had a wonderful career here. One of the junior starters that year was Eddie Cook, who passed away just before we had a 30-year reunion at Coach Myers' house. Eddie was a great athlete at Walkersville High School in Maryland, played on the state championship team, and was drafted 3 years in a row by Major League Baseball while he was here. And the other starter on that team, the other junior that's here today, was the all-time leading scorer in the school, Dr. Jim Upperman, and he was 2 rebounds away from being the all-time leading rebounder. And he had a fadeaway jump shot that couldn't be guarded. I appreciate you guys making the effort to be here today. When I graduated from Bridgewater and was living in the area and teaching and coaching, and for people that are just starting out, I was making an incredible amount of money coaching. I was coaching 3 sports and I was getting $150 for each one. And I was going broke, trying to pay rent, trying to pay everything you got to pay when you're a first-year teacher. And my great friend Donnie Folk came to the rescue. He found us a place we could share at the Rockingham Fairgrounds, what's now the Rockingham Fairgrounds, for the incredible price of $25 a month rent. And that allowed us to buy a little more Denny Moore stew and survive. And in the summers, Menzel Dean talked me into playing slow pitch softball in Kieseltown, and we had a great time. Competition was good, place was always packed. And Menzel and I especially enjoyed being around the commissioner of that league, a really charismatic man, and he was known as Big Menzel. When Stuart Straft High School opened, there were 2 young coaches on that staff. I was the basketball coach, and Sam Alexander was the baseball coach. And I forgot. Anyway, Sam has been a loyal friend all these years and coached several state championship teams, and he plans the golf trips for a group of us retired teachers and coaches. And the 4th year Sam and I were there, we became mentors to a first-year teacher who had been a stylish left-handed pitcher here at Bridgewater. Bo Trumbo helped me coach basketball, helped Sam coach baseball, and then later in life, he helped my father-in-law, Paul Seipel, conduct a lot of major league tryout camps all over Virginia and West Virginia. Appreciate you 2 guys being here. The last 2 people I need to thank are my high school coach. Without him, I wouldn't have a chance to be here today. Now, he flew down from Florida last night. He's 86 years old, and he had to leave to get his plane this afternoon. But he was at the luncheon with me. We spent the morning together, and he took a skinny, scrawny kid that had never played a minute in a game where the outcome was in doubt. My junior year, I scored a total of 6 points. I never gave a thought about playing in college because I never even started a game. But I got to be the 5th man on the team that won the state championship easily. And he was a brilliant coach. He coached 3 state championship teams in a 6-year period in AAA basketball. His winning percentage was way over 75%. And he gave me that opportunity. And from there, when I finally matured physically, I was a robust 6'3.5", 150 in high school. But when I finally matured physically and could play, that made a difference that year. That gave me the chance to actually develop and play. And I was able to thank him briefly at the luncheon. I appreciate Kurt giving me a certain amount of time to thank him in public. He's had to leave. And he wrote me a really nice letter when I transferred, when I went to Murray State to play. And I played on the freshman team. Played well. It was a really good team. And some of those guys played pro ball. And by the time I finally transferred back to Bridgewater, I looked more like the people in my own class. I'd gone from 6'3" to 6'5", 180. And I could play. I had a game. Now, my wife wanted me to make sure that I said the best thing that ever happened when I transferred to Bridgewater was meeting her. Well, that's right up there, obviously. But you liked that, didn't you? I got a better one in a minute. But where I was from at the time, athletically, it was either you won or you failed. It was a gigantic high school. My senior class was larger than the Bridgewater student body that I came into. And it was strictly take no prisoners, ask no quarter. If you didn't win, you failed, period. And if you traveled in certain areas in that area, in Northern Virginia or D.C., you knew you didn't make eye contact, and you had to project a certain presence about yourself. So when I transferred to Bridgewater, that's what I was used to. So I'm walking across campus like this, not making eye contact, and I'm getting a stiff neck every day. I can't believe it. All these people are stopping and saying hello, and I said, I can't believe it that I lucked out my last 3 years in such a wonderful, tremendous environment with wonderful, caring people on a beautiful small college campus. And that's the one thing. I listened to about 40 speeches on YouTube, and I know Kurt and them said it's supposed to be 3 minutes. I even listened to that 21-minute one. This won't be that long. But the one thing that came across to me in those speeches was that the relationships that are formed here last a lifetime. There's no question about it. There are so many people here that Bev and I are so just so enjoyable to see and to talk to and to share the day with us. And the last person I need to thank is my college coach. And I just saw Mrs. Myers here. Where are you, Betty Lou? Just so thankful you could be here, because Coach was such a big part of my life. And also another person that coached that year was the great Jim Reedy, who helped coach that year and help us win 18 games. And even though my good friend Jim Upperman knocked him out as the all-time leading scorer, but it was a big deal. We had a great time. And one more thing to say before I talk about Coach. When I went to my first practice, Coach Myers was a young, handsome, dark-haired man who liked fast-breaking, high-scoring basketball. When I graduated, along with my two good friends, Jim Upperman from Vienna, Virginia, and Tom Julian from Long Island, New York, that New York guy, as Coach Myers would say sometimes. Coach Myers was a young, handsome coach who liked high-scoring, fast-breaking basketball. But he had an incredible amount of gray hair after that. And he was just a very patient man. He was non-confrontational. He was a great teacher. He knew what style he wanted his teams to play, and he knew how to coach it. He never took anything personally, which was great for me. I was a streetwise suburban kid with no social skills, who was often wrong but never in doubt. And I put that on the thing when I mailed it for their anniversary. Now, the one thing that's really changed since then is that I no longer live in a suburban area. You didn't have to laugh that loud. Okay, and so the last thing I'd say is, and I don't have time to go into it, if you want to read a great book and see how in the world Bridgewater could have possibly beaten Old Dominion, read Pat Conroy's book written in 2002, My Losing Season, and get an idea about how good that Old Dominion team was that we shocked in the semifinals. They'd gone to full scholarships. They humiliated the Citadel. And it's a great book. You'd enjoy reading it. But Coach was great that game. Coach Myers, Coach Reedy, they made great adjustments all during that game. And you'll enjoy the book if you get a chance to read it. And finally, I felt like playing for Coach Myers and being here at this wonderful little small college campus was just a great experience. And it was great to have Coach as a friend and a coach. And I'd like to thank Colby Horn, Kirk Kendall, Phyllis Lambert, and Steve Cox, and everybody else for helping put this together, and especially Steve Cox and Colby for helping me get my materials together and my bio together. And especially thank the committee for including me in this year's Bridgewater College Athletic Hall of Fame. I'm honored and incredibly humbled. Thank you.